Oh, I think it's going now. Let me check on the. Yeah, I think we're live. We're live. It's working. It's working. All right, cool. I just wanted to make sure that was good. Guys, welcome to the stream. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Look, this is the first live interview with King Dave, and I don't want to waste your time, right? I want to get right into it. I know you guys aren't here to wait to hear Dave speak 5, 10, 45 minutes from now. You want to hear him.
Nice.
You want to hear him talk now. So, without any wait, Dave, welcome. Thank you for agreeing to sit down with me and do this. I know we were talking in DMs and we were discussing, adventures and how it'd be cool to have an interview that isn't like surface level stuff. That's kind of goes into it a little bit more, where your core holder would get something out of it and not just refreshing the same basic stuff that a lot of times these content creators will ask you about. So, first off, before anything, I know someone asked me to ask you this, and this is a very important question: boxers or briefs?
I wear briefs.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
because I have to because of the tight pants.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Otherwise you get bundle it like just bulkage stuff. That's yeah, it's unsightly. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I agree. I
I
agree.
prefer
Briefs
briefs.
is the way to go. All right, all right.
I think so too.
Let's get down to the nitty gritty. All right. I want the stream to start off with a bang and maybe
That was the
clickbait.
nitty gritty.
Oh, that
That
was
was the
okay.
nitty
Okay.
gritty
Okay.
part. That's as nitty and as gritty as we can get.
You can't hear Dave. Dave a little quiet. Okay. Dave's audio is low. Let Thank you guys for letting me know. Can you hear him at all?
Testing 1 2 3 testing testing.
Let me know if you guys can hear him at all. Thank y'all for letting me know. Dave's Zombie is like 3 and you're at 10. Oh, sorry, sorry, sorry. Okay, let me change that up. All right, try it again, Dave.
Hello, testing testing.
I apologize for that, guys. I thought we were good because I can hear him good on my side. Perfect. It's good now. Nope.
Nice. Hello.
Uh, a bit higher. That's in the right direction. Okay. I mean, I turned him all the way up. It might be on my end, Dave. I'm not sure.
Uh, I mean, if there's any way to increase the output on my side, or sorry, on your side, I have the microphone right up in my face. So,
How's that now, guys? Can y'all give me
hello,
a check?
testing.
Perfect now. That's good. He's good now. Okay, perfect. Awesome. Thank you guys. And I apologize for that. It's good on my end, but I guess on my OBS it was low on his side. So, Dave, I want to know. Let's get the juicy stuff on the front end so that everybody can know what is some alpha that you would like to drop that maybe you didn't share anywhere else, or you didn't have a chance to because for whatever reason you forgot to or didn't have time to, and you want to share it now.
I think I'm looking at the app right now on my other screen on the like the actual app. So if I'm looking away from the camera, it's because I'm like scrolling through the app and I'm like, man, what's something that's really cool that maybe we've hinted at. I mean, a lot of the good stuff's out there. I think Tommy and the boys at Freedom 35 like really that was a 2 hour pretty good deep dive, and I think we said a lot. But I think maybe I talked about on that show with them. We talked quite a bit about platform and the customization capabilities that it gives us. But we I can't remember because I remember talking to them a bit after the show, and I can't remember if I said this on the live stream or not. But I'll try to give a few more details about it. So we tweeted yesterday from the Derpers account about fame, and you guys, or a lot of people who at least have looked at the brief and everything, and have maybe listened to some of the interviews. We've talked about like how how you accumulate fame at the end of the season. You can convert that fame to power score for your derps, but we've mentioned and we talked about it a bit in that tweet. We mentioned getting sort of special prizes at the end of the season for fame. So everyone who earns fame will get a sort of some sort of combination of goods. It could be crafting materials, it could be DD, but I think like the real the coolest thing to get from those end of season rewards is going to be the really unique blueprints, or the really rare blueprints. So there will be some legendaries that you can get, some legendary blueprints that you can get from research that you'll get at random, but there's going to be a couple legendaries that you'll only see at the end of the season. Only a few people are going to get them, which makes them really special. So those people who do get them can decide what to do with them. Do they want to craft them and hold the traits themselves? Do they want to sort of like form a duopoly or something where like they basically set a price floor where they're like, yeah, let's not craft these out too quickly, because as you know, all the blueprints have a crafting limit. For legendaries, it depends upon the attribute and the faction, so it'll vary a bit. But it's somewhere between like 30 and 50 on some of these legendary blueprints. That's how many times it can be crafted. But what's really special, and this is the thing that I can't remember if I mentioned on the Freedom 35 show, is that we are introducing a couple unique traits, right? And so right now there's only a few unique traits, right? It's really the ghost. I think the derpling attributes are all no, they don't have rarity. They don't have rarities associated with them. So it's just the ghost, right? All of the ghost attributes, if you go check them out in the
They're all
derp app, they're
unique.
unique,
The
unique.
red tag.
And exactly. And they're the only ones like that. And so we're going to introduce some unique traits that can be crafted. And what that means is we can't do this a lot because it's a lot of work to introduce, to do the artwork, and it's mostly the artwork because platform makes the rest very easy. But we'll introduce a blueprint that produces multiple variants of a trait, but each of those variants, only one exists of each. So let's say you have a blueprint, it'll craft this trait. The blueprint can be crafted, let's say 3 times. It can be used 3 times, and all 3 times that it's used, it'll create a unique variation of that trait. And so you can imagine what the power score and everything on those look like. It'll be pretty nutty. But that again, I think the most visually significant traits, like the ones that are going to be really impactful, will be unique. Yeah, the cool thing about doing that, or really another reason why we might want to make those unique, is because if they were spammed, some of these really visually impactful traits, it would sort of
It would take away from the wow factor, I think, right?
it would definitely do that, but all the derps that would have them would look kind of similar because they are. I haven't said this, but we have talked about multi-slot traits before and how like it'll cover up multiple attributes, and so these the ones that we've got sort of set aside for that will they're pretty impactful in that way. So we want them to be super rare, super special, and it's kind of fun. Like I mean, I don't know about how you feel, but like I remember as a kid, EverQuest way back in the day, and then everyone played World of Warcraft and everything, but just like seeing people with like some of those like super rare items, like what was the well, we're not gonna talk about World of Warcraft, but yeah, just like those things that you never saw, like in a city of like 1,000 people, you'd see like one person running around with them.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of like what we want to do with the unique traits. So
So
um yeah.
I have a question. So I know that since Voix dropped his little thread strategy guide, one of the things I didn't know about were the artifacts that are needed to craft legendary and mystical traits, right? So, and the only way you get those is to go on certain difficulty scouting quest, and you have a chance. Have it pulled up. I have the bookmark pulled up. You have a chance for those to drop if you use 100% success rate. Now, you're talking about these legendary, unique blueprints that are giving to people uh, with through fame. Will, let's say someone that has a handful of derps that can't go on those scouting missions gets that kind of blueprint, what happens with them? Because there's really no way for them to go and get that artifact to create that trait. So how does that work for them getting the unique blueprint?
Yeah, there's a few things to touch on there. Like some things are one feature may shift or change, and that has knock-on effects for other features. So the original plan was for the artifacts, which are those special crafting materials we're talking about, for them to be NFTs. And so if you got one, you could trade them, which means if I'm someone who has the blueprint but I can't complete the quest, I could
Yeah.
buy them. We decided not to do that for season 1 because we just want to see how things shake out for the first season. We want to see like what do numbers look like? How do who's getting what? How do sort of the medium size holders do in relation to smaller holders versus large holders? How many traits get crafted? How long does it take for traits to get crafted? And I want to again, I've been saying this so many times, but I want to stress like what we do for season 1. I'm not saying it's just a test, but it for sure is. It's a pilot in a way that we want to see like how things go, and um, so that was one of them. As I said, like originally we had planned for those artifacts to be NFTs, and so it kind of made sense. Number two is we think that there will be some people. Actually, we know there are a lot of people in the ecosystem who are sort of completionists. And so we do want them to be able to unlock all of the blueprints that are available to them through normal gameplay. And so if you can get them through research, um, I think there will be people who just keep doing research until they get all of the blueprints. Even if a blueprint has hit its crafting limit, I think there will still be some people who are like, I don't care, I just want to get all the blueprints unlocked. And that won't be fully possible because there will be some of those blueprints, as we talked about, that you're only going to get through fame, like through fame rewards. So they're going to be very exclusive, very difficult to get, and require a bit of luck as well. So there will be some, and the opposite is true as well. By the way, you might loot an artifact. You're someone with like a perfect specimen, and you're just like YOLOing into a really hard scouting quest. You're not even thinking about the fact that you hit 100% of the power score requirement, and you get an artifact, and you don't have the blueprint.
Yeah.
And so I think that there will be, it's going to happen in the same way that people are going to have a lot of additional crafting materials left over once they're sort of finished crafting, that they don't have a use for either. So
That
it's
was a question I had too. I was wondering like, okay, so there's different ways to go about it. You can get a blueprint, but you don't have the crafting materials or the artifacts to get it, but you have that blueprint. Tommy was asking if you have a legendary blueprint, you can craft it. It won't expire right away. That's true, but unless the global limit is reached for that particular trait, right? So you can get anybody can get any number of blueprints. The harder ones, of course, are more difficult to get, but there's no limit on accounts receiving blueprints. You can
right.
receive as many blueprints as you want. You just can't use those blueprints if the global limit for that trait is reached, correct?
Exactly. And in reality, there's no need to ever receive more than one of the same blueprint because it's like more like you're learning it. Like you get the blueprint
Mm.
and it's unlocked on your account and you can use it for as long as you have the crafting materials or until it hits its crafting limit. So however, um, it's a very small thing, but since we're going deep on some of these details, it is technically possible to loot the same blueprint twice. It just you wouldn't see it in the UI. So if you today I was
Mm.
doing a lot of testing and I was running the same quest over and over, and I had loaded. It's a test quest, and so I loaded it full of like a lot of blueprints and a ton of crafting materials, so I can spam craft. And Yeah, and so I'm getting the same blueprint over and over and over. It doesn't mean anything, and there's no indication of how many times you've looted a blueprint. So small thing there, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because
but
it
but
doesn't matter as long as you have it. You have it. There's no point in
exactly.
having that
Now,
number.
Now, I will say, just like we did with crafting, we sort of went in the opposite direction with those the special crafting materials. The artifacts. We talked about those being NFTs originally, then we decided to keep them on chain. We may go the opposite direction later with blueprints.
Mm.
I don't think we would do it systematically like across the board, but we may release special blueprints that are NFTs that are sort of as long as you hold that NFT, you can craft or you burn that NFT to learn the blueprint. So there's so many. Again, everyone's making jokes about me saying platform allows us to do that, but it allows us to do that. At this point, the only sort of limiting factor, I guess, like when we decide, like, do we want this to be on chain or off chain? There's a few things that we would consider. One is like, do you want it to be tradable? And that's that. I mean, that of itself you could unpack and have an hour-long discussion about it, like all the fun stuff that you can do with that. If it's trapped, if it's tradable, then it can be sold, and like you get people who are like super lucky and they're able to sell that, and we want that kind of fun. Dude, just a quick aside is going back to MMOs, like, thinking about the early days in 1999, like playing EverQuest, this concept of like bind on equip. And for those who don't know, like bind on equip is like, you get this special piece of equipment or gear and you can trade it, you can give it to someone, you can sell it. But the moment that you equip it on your character,
It's
it's
locked.
bound to your character.
Mm.
You can't trade it, you can't sell it. You can unequip it, but you can't sell it to anyone, you can't trade it to anyone. Versus bind on acquire, which is as soon as you pick it up, it's yours and you can't trade it. And so that whole concept, dude, the fun of like, I mean, my earliest memories of playing MMOs like EverQuest is like just some random dude coming, just running up to you and giving you all this badass equipment and gear, and and it felt amazing. So that we definitely want to have a lot of fun with like this. You call it an economy or whatever, but getting to that point where it's like, oh, cool, I got this blueprint. It's a huge opportunity for someone to get something like that they can go sell, and they could use it as well. But maybe they don't have the materials for it, or maybe it's just to them it's worth selling. So it so many things that we can do there where we can. Sorry, I was talking about if the decisions about should something be on chain versus off chain. So do we want it to be sellable, tradable, or whatever? Also, there's the friction point of signing transactions. I can tell you, I'm already so spoiled by almost all of Adventures is off chain. You've heard about the special
Yeah.
crafting system we have. It's so cool. It is awesome that I'm able to craft and test that today. Like craft things on chain that requires no transactions, no signatures for me. It's nuts. Like people aren't going to understand, which is what we want. Like it's people shouldn't have to understand how it works. But anyways, those are the areas of focus. Like, do we want people to be able to trade it, and is it an area where we want to reduce friction? And just one more little note on that is, though I think for what it's worth, the highest friction point of the Adventures launch is customization, because you have to go on chain.
Yeah.
You have to bring your SIP25 derp or pred to us, and just like you guys update, just like pred v, well, pred v2 is a bit different, but you've got to come and sign a transaction so that we can and give us permission with the signature to update your derp NFT for us to do that. If it were SIP68, we wouldn't have to worry about that. We could update sorry, it would be much easier if it was SIP68. But we're already, Geek and I were just talking today, and we're like, it's going to be days into the Adventures launch before people start asking, can we just take customization off chain and make it optional? I want to push my metadata update to my NFT, or I'm fine leaving it off chain and just being in the ecosystem. You wouldn't have to pay, because you will have to sign a transaction for that, and there will be
Mhm.
dust fees that we have no control over,
Well,
what those costs will be.
I got a couple things I was thinking about while you're talking. One, to go back to materials and blueprints, what happens? Like one of the questions is, what if a smaller holder gets a legendary blueprint, but they can't obviously can't get the materials to craft that trait. Um, what happens to, let's say, blueprints, materials, all these things? Even say you get an artifact for whatever reason, like you said, but you don't have the blueprint to get the trait. What happens to all those off chain things at the end of a season? Is there any like, hey, I got this stuff, I want to turn it in for something else, or does it like stay in your account for the next season that possibly you have a let's say you have a bigger drop chance of artifacts in this kind of quest that is more accessible to smaller holders? Is there anything that happens to those things after season's over, or does it continue in the account? How does that work?
With blueprints, as of right now, there's no plan to. Well, someone asked a few days ago in Discord. I'm trying to remember who it was. They were asking about um, basically sort of actually, I think it was Millie who was asking about if there are like if you could if there's limits, and I was like, yes, blueprints have limits except for common and uncommon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those have no crafting limits. So that if people are coming in 3 months from now, they can continue crafting. But at the end of the season, the plan right now, at the end of sorry, not at the end of the season, but at some point, let's say by the time season 2 kicks off, for example, we would say, cool, all of those season 1 blueprints, they can no longer be crafted. They're sort of even those commons and uncommons that have no limits, they'll sort of be locked down and not usable anymore. I bring that up just as I think it's an interesting point related to what you're asking. But there's no plan, at least again with the season 1 blueprints and how we've implemented them, for them to sort of go away or be able to cash them out or anything like that. And we'll leave them in. We want people to sort of be able to retroactively go back and like, yeah, I got all the blueprints from season 1, and navigate
Yeah, yeah.
back and sort of. I will say that when we first started talking about crafting, you know, again, this is a whole aside here, but the overall aesthetic and feel of Derps I think, is very unique. I'd say the Derp app is definitely super dated, but Adventures really does feel like what our stuff should feel like.
Mm-hmm.
It has a very unique feel, and I've been in design really for as long as I've been able to use computers. Like that's when I got into it, and it's what I do professionally now. And I can say like finding the sort of unique design language for derps has been very difficult. I say all that to say that like our original plan with blueprints is we wanted to have like this experience of like, you're sort of like flipping through a book, and you're like, you have these page, like each page is a blueprint, and you're like, it feels like something you've collected, something you sort of I think Voix one time used the phrase like almost like a stamp book, like you sort of have your collection of things in there. And we opted not to go for that for this base experience, one because we 2080, we don't want to break our backs on things, on every single aspect of the app, but also from a usability point of view, like flipping through a bunch of pages to get to a blueprint that I want to craft, it just becomes cumbersome. And so we try to be careful of how much of that we do, but we want that, those people who spend the time getting those season 1 blueprints to be able to sort of navigate back to those and be like, oh cool, yeah, I remember I crafted 6
Mm-hmm.
of these, and you can go back to those old blueprints, view them, and I'm looking at the app right now, clicking into an app that I was or a blueprint that I was test crafting today, and I can see how many times I crafted it, and that's really cool. It sits right beside the supply metric. So again, going super deep on some of these things, but it's really cool because imagine there's that legendary trait or that unique trait even that has a supply of 3, or a legendary that has a supply of 30, for example, and you go in there and you're like, yeah, I crafted 5 of these. Like that's a cool metric to be able to revisit and be like, yeah, like
Yeah.
I made those. And so with blueprints in particular, we'll leave them there's there again, that could change for future seasons. We'll always want to switch it up, but for crafting materials, maybe it's a little more interesting because we have a few ideas about either, again, and where it gets really difficult to talk about this is those content layers, because we may introduce that's going to be so dynamic because they're fairly easy for us to implement, that we may introduce, let's say a season launches, and then less than a month later a layer of content is added that also utilizes those crafting materials for
Mm-hmm.
something. And that may not always be the case. There may not even be crafting associated with a particular content layer. um and so in that same way, it's hard to give you a definitive answer on the crafting materials, because it might be that once, let's say, right before season 2 ends, there's a content layer that overlaps. It started sometime after season 1, but it's still running into season 2, and there may be overlap with those crafting materials. Those crafting materials may still be used for some of that layer of content, but they might not necessarily be used for the new stuff that's added in season 2. And so again, let's use a quick video game. Go back to World of Warcraft. Is the Burning Crusade or an expansion pack would come out. A bunch of new crafting materials would be introduced into the world. You'd go to the new zones and mine the new, ore or pick the new herbs, whatever. But that didn't mean that the everything that came before it was completely redundant. You would still have a reason to go back and find the materials of, from the previous areas of the game. So there's a lot we can do with it. Yeah, and exactly what we do with it is going to depend upon the next few content layers that come out. Yeah, one more quick note is we have thought about like a cash out type thing because scouting is the grind content, as we've sort of described it. We want to be careful of how we do this, especially because there are things like the storage annex that'll come online at the for outposts, which will generate crafting materials, and there may be other content to get crafting materials. We don't want that to get too far out in front of us, where people end up with millions and millions of crafting materials. But in a way, I do not want to talk about adventures in the context of like, oh, it's gamified staking. But if you think about that, if people are using their assets to go and collect things that they can then cash out for derp dollars, in a way, that is the it's kind of staking in a way. Like it really isn't. It's the furthest thing from it, but it is how Web3 people view. Oh, I go and do something for a certain period of time and I get a reward back. So there's a lot of things we can do with it, and as I keep saying, like a lot of it's going to come down to what do we see? How are people participating? What are the numbers looking like?
One of the things I thought is maybe like because you said there might be crafting materials that are used in content layers that are kind of overlap. What if like you say, okay, these crafting materials at season 1 ends and the account has this number of crafting materials, instead of necessarily turning them in or cashing them out, the account keeps the crafting materials, and because you have X amount of crafting materials, you get a bonus amount of DD at the end of the season, and then that's the way. Like, hey, it rewards another type of gamified staking. It rewards the people that are going on scouting and that are grinding that out, and that are you get to kind of choose. I may not be able to craft all the traits, but I'm hitting all the scouting quest. I'm racking up all these materials because I know at the end of the season, not only will fame be rewarded for my participation, but maybe materials will. That might be another way to look at
Totally.
it. So, but one of the
Yeah.
other things.
Well, that is definitely that's definitely the right way to think about it. I mean, I think like you could be again, no one should bank on this, but like the there could be. Yeah, I'll leave it there, but like I think you're definitely along those lines are like exactly how we view it too. Is like it should be, if people are spending time participating in things, like there should be some sort of output that comes from that. And so if the season ends and you've crafted all your traits and everything and you're still just grinding away with scouting, then it seems like there it would be fun to do something with those excess crafting materials.
One of the things I want to ask you, I know I saw like AMJ and I think Bajewski were talking about it the other day. I don't think there's a lot about it. Well, let me ask you this first. Nami's asked, research takes 12 hours, scouting takes 4 hours. How long do campaigns take? Is it different times? Because it's not in the guidebook.
Let me see. Pulling up my master spreadsheet here. So it it's an ascending right throughout the campaign. They get longer and longer, and so I'll just throw this out there. The campaign quests get more difficult, right? Higher power score requirement as you advance through them. As you advance through like a campaign, you advance through the chapters in the quest. It gets harder and harder. The starting quest is 120 minutes, so 2 hours. And the last one is 1200 divided by 60, 20 hours long, the very last quest. So it gets pretty long. I will say, as I keep saying, we're not sure if these are the best numbers. When we first started planning adventures, dude, we were planning like research to be like, okay, so the original version of research was select the rarity of blueprint that you want to learn, like common, and then research. And it would take a certain period of time. Or, if it was legendary, it might some of the numbers that we thought about in the beginning was like it would take 18 days to learn a legendary blueprint. And while I think there is definitely room for us to do like that sort of really cool, and I even see people on Twitter who talk, like, oh, I hope there's like really long content. I again, that really takes on the form of gamified staking, which is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you're gonna be doing something for 12 days or 30 days or something. There's no problem with that. But again, I'll keep repeating the statement. For season one, we want to experiment a bit, and we opted for, you know, you psychopaths that are the core community who like always want, stuff to do. We opted for like, let's bring those timers down substantially from what we originally started with. And I think I mentioned this on Freedom 35 as well, is that the reason why we brought those times down is because it actually, while it does create an opportunity for large holders to get further ahead, it also provides an opportunity for, let's say, two equal size holders for one to outperform the other. If everything took, let's say, 2 days to do,
Mm-hmm.
then all you have to do is commit 5 minutes every 2 days, and there would be no
Yeah.
competition. Everyone would just progress at the same rate. And so we wanted to create, have staggered timers, 4 hours for scouting, 12 hours for research, and then it's more dynamic with the campaigns. So that there is that opportunity for people to say, you know what, I'm willing, I'm going to spend an extra amount of time so I can get further ahead. But again, it comes with the trade-off of, I mean, the ultimate currency always is time, right?
Yeah.
Again, that's like MMOs.
Yeah.
They were not, they were also pay to win as well. It was just you were paying with time. So, um,
So
yeah,
many. I've been watching Discord. So many people are like, we talked about it right before the stream started. Like people taking off of work and like taking time, like a vacation. I'm on vacation. I'll be on the beach, like playing adventures. It's. I mean, a lot. I mean, a lot of these people that we've been holders for a while, and it's like this is something that like we're getting to do it. I think we kind of got a little taste of that. I mean, at least I did with the energy compound and doing like the different things like every day, like after I put my son to bed, and do whatever I got to do, and I come in here and I'm like checking everything, and I actually might have some compounds to go bet on, but one of the things I'm excited for it. I'm ready to do it, and it's good to have those short things like. I always kind of look back to a mobile game, Clash of Clans. Like it's good to have those things you check in every day, collect, do. But then there's Clash of Clans. Some of the timers on some of these upgrades is like 7, 8 days long. Sometimes when you get to
yeah,
certain structures that you're upgrading, so it's a good balance. Like okay, once I set this going, I'm gonna have to wait. Like I can't do anything else. But I have all these other little things that I can do on a day-to-day basis, which I think having those different times, the 4 hours for scouting and the 12 hours for research, and then in between you're doing those campaigns as you're rotating. I think it's great. I like those numbers. And then like you said, it's the first season. We'll look at how people respond, how people use the adventures, and then adjust it from there if it needs be. One of the questions I
yeah,
had, we're talking in Discord, and like I said, AMJ was talking about it with Bajewski, but crafting, there isn't like we talk about it. We talk about okay, so you need a blueprint, you need materials, you need a certain materials for that blueprint to craft a certain trait. That trait has variants and different things. Now, when you craft that trait, you have that trait in your account, but it is not on your NFT yet. So you're holding that trait, which is an NFT, right, in itself.
right. Yep.
Um, and that whole crafting mechanism is the one that y'all is minting the trait. It's frictionless if you add ADA to your account balance. Um, the question is, once you have that trait and you want to customize it to your derp, I know you were talking about it earlier. That process of equipping it to your derp essentially is bringing the trait and putting it into your NFT of your derp, and changing the metadata because you're changing the visual, you're changing what it says. What happens to that NFT trait? It's I I know from the conversation I had with them, but I wanted to talk to you about it so that the listeners can get in on that conversation. I know it's not anything super crazy, but it's cool to understand the process. So when you have the NFT trait
Yeah.
and you put it on your derp, what happens to that trait? And what happens if you decide, hey, I don't want, or I want to sell my derp, but I want to keep that trait? How does that all work?
Yeah, so yeah, it's a little more technical and yeah, it's not as like gameplay exciting, but it is important to understand, especially because we are in the space of Web3 and while we're always joking about, doing more and more off-chain, it is the thing that I love most about being, I guess, an NFT project, this whole thing of being on Web3 is the most important part of it in my mind is the ownership of the assets. And so while we're doing more and more off chain, um, the I think the most important part is that you own the thing that has the value, the collectible, the thing that people would want. Like that is yours. And so I think while yeah, you're right, it's not the most like sort of exciting thing to get into, but it is sort of really important to remember that like that is the I think essence of crypto in general is sort of decentralized ownership of things. And so yeah, when you equip a trait NFT, you're right. You craft a trait, and it immediately it's an NFT that will go to the wallet that you want it to go to, right? Just like when if for those who are familiar with claiming your ADA from the Gold Rush app, you just select which wallet you want it to go to. You're done. You click a button. It's the same thing for claiming a trait that you've crafted. You'll select the wallet you want to go to, you click the button, and it goes to your wallet. We will be batching those in the same way that we do the ADA rewards.
Okay.
For the outpost.
That's an
So we're
awesome
basically
system, by the way. I love that.
every 5 minutes, we're just like sending out those transactions. It's the same, by the way, if you deposit ADA to your account and you withdraw it back to your wallet, it could take 10 seconds, could take up to 5 minutes because again, we're just doing that batching transaction. But as soon as you craft that trait, it will appear in your bag, sort of I think this is how it works, is there's not an off-chain version of it. It's just that, well, I guess there is an off-chain version of it. Every single asset, and when I say asset, I mean every single derp ape trait, every single completed pred character NFT, every single outpost, everything is an asset in the system. All of that lives in platform now. That means I could go, and it wouldn't matter because derp apes are locked policy and everything. But I could go into platform right now and change the eyes for. I could go into one of the derp ape, the deity eye derp for derp apes and change the artwork associated with that right now. Now I wouldn't be able to affect anyone's NFTs for two reasons. One, the derp ape policy is locked, and number two, it's not SIP 68. So like, you have to, anyways, I'm going way too far down the rabbit hole here. But so when you craft that trait, it will appear in your bag instantly. You can go and view all of your crafted traits. You can filter by faction, for example, or rarity or attribute. And when you go and customize your character with that, that trait NFT is burned. So
Okay.
basically, we take it off the blockchain. And then if you were to unequip a trait from a character, it's the exact opposite. So the cool thing is if you have a derp that has a really badass, cool, let's say unique or legendary, or any level of rarity trait on, and I buy that derp from you, yeah, I'm free to then unequip those traits and move them and put them elsewhere if I want. And
So
what that does when I unequip it is it just reissues that trait NFT to me, to my wallet.
so there's gonna be a market for like, what if, okay, so someone could say some holder that isn't as connected. Let's just say that isn't as connected, but connected enough to go and do adventures. But maybe they don't understand that they have maybe it's a variant. Maybe they don't understand they have a
Exactly.
variant of a trait that's really, really rare. They equip it to their bird. It's a common. They look at it and they say, "Oh, it's a common trait. It's common. I'm gonna put it on my bird." I'm done with NFTs. I'm gonna go sell this thing. So someone could go see that they have this trait because it's gonna show visually, right? At least I hope. JPEG,
Yes.
please
Oh
get
yeah.
get your act
We're
together.
talking to JPEG. We're
Okay.
talking to JPEG. Yeah.
Um, or a marketplace or way up, whatever. So you can visually see this trait, and somebody can be like, "I hate this bird, but there's a, a rare variant of this trait on this bird. I'm gonna go buy the bird into my account, unequip the trait, and then just throw the bird back out, and then put that onto one of my birds that I enjoy and that I like. That's gonna be
Exactly.
interesting.
I think for sure it's going to happen. The cool thing about variations is that you know, the thing that I think I mean, again, I could go back to MMOs all over again. It's like so often you have something that you don't know its significance or how rare something is, how special it is. Again, all of so many awesome moments I've had in gaming through the years. Star Wars Galaxies back in 2002, they had just so many cool versions of this. But like, you get something you don't even know the thing that you have is so significant or special or rare. And
Mm-hmm.
so with variations, we do tell people like when you craft a trait we do tell you that you got a variation. Well, we don't tell you that you got a variation. What we do is we show your the trait that you crafted, and there's a small indicator that it's a variation, but it doesn't tell you how rare of a variation it is. You wouldn't know. And in fact, I think we have decided to not publicly state AMJ or someone will do some math, but like, well, it's not that it's like super complex math, but like we've decided not to tell people like what the probabilities are to receive certain variations. The only indication that we're putting on anything is that when you look at a blueprint, it'll say how many variations there are. So for example, there's a couple traits that have like up to 6 variations.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll say 6. And so when you craft one, you will know that whether or not you got the default version of that trait or if you got a variation, but you won't know if is this the most rare variation? How rare is it? You won't know. And I think
Is it not? Isn't that indicated by the name? I know. Let's see.
the name would tell you that it's a variation. So for example,
Mm-hmm.
we have let's say in the brief, for example, we have the infantryman, which I think we renamed to just the infantry. But we have the base version, and I think the other one that we included in the brief is the hunter version of that. And so we you will see like, oh, this is the hunter, this isn't the standard.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll know it's a variation, and you'll know it's a variation because it doesn't look like the blueprint, the image associated with the blueprint where we show the trait. So you'll know it's different, but you won't know how rare it is.
So, is there any way to know globally how many variants have been
Yeah, for
crafted?
sure.
Okay,
Like, yeah,
that's good to
because
know.
the metadata of the crafted NFT trait will display that it'll be in the name, for example. So
Mm-hmm.
the infantryman trait, um, you would be able to go to the Derp marketplace or go or scan it on the blockchain yourself, or go to JPEG store or way up and filter. You could say like so how it'll work, by the way, I don't know if this is anything we've talked about, is all crafted traits will be on one policy ID, right? For
Okay,
all of
that's
derps and
that's
all
what
of
I was about
creds.
to ask. Yeah. Okay. Awesome.
It'll be on one policy ID, and then the metadata of those crafted traits will be like faction, derps,
Mm-hmm.
faction, or derpers, faction preds, and then attribute and so on. Power source. We'll even have, I don't know if you've said this, but we even have crafted by, because you're logged in. We can track like
Ah,
who made
okay.
it and put that in the metadata. It's
That's
kind of again,
that's cool.
really
That's cool.
fun.
That was one of the early on screenshots or videos that you shared of the platform. Like the little scroll across the top of, hey, this person's crafted this. I don't know if that's gonna be there, but I mean it's a version of what that was very, indicating.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
exactly. And
interesting.
so yeah, being able to like I mean I don't know why again, memories from video games were like way back in the day in Star Wars Galaxies, like there were people who crafted who you always bought from. Like you it just like it there was something about that. So I don't think that's as significant within, at least within this first version of adventures. But like let's jump ahead by 6 months or 18 months or something and think about like, what if there is a version of the crafting system where you talked about extra crafting materials earlier? What if there's a version of the crafting system where you can use 10 times the crafting materials that's normally required to get some special outcome?
Mhm.
To get a special variant, it can only be obtained this way. Or maybe maybe it's based on trait. Again, I know someone's gonna hound me over this later, but what if there's like when you craft this trait, if you have a Derpling with a master key, you get some particular special outcome. Those things, again, someone make fun of me for this, but like are so easy with platform. Like those little conditions that normally require all of this like again, let's talk about master key for a second. Like the reason why it's very different, and the reason why we introduced power score is because doing things with every single attribute is very difficult. It just requires hands on keyboards, right? Geek typing code for all those different outcomes. It's not scalable. And so platform does allow us to do more of those types of fun things that just think about, go back to 2021 and think about like how fun it was to mint NFTs and to be like, oh man, what's this master key for? You know, like what is that for? What's it going to be used for? What does it mean that I have this? And it's I mean, part of that's always, you know, the it's just fun for the sake of you know, for fun, but doing special things with those is generally not doable. It's not scalable. It would take us forever. Platform allows us to do more of that. So I don't know how we got to where we're talking what we're talking about now, but there's so many ways for us to make crafting special and unique and to allow people, and again, I'm not committing to anything. I'm just saying like the we're limited by, I talked about this last time on Clay's After Dark, like the ideas that we'll pursue, they have to meet a certain criteria. And while sometimes someone will come up with an amazing, you just an idea that sounds so fun, it's so creative, and it's even a good fit, it's just the resources to do it, the
Mhm.
time and do it, and what else we have to give up to be able to do it oftentimes isn't worth it. But we're getting to a point with platform where, you know, this first version of Adventures is badass. It's so awesome. Someone asked today, like, compared to the, you know, if it's anything like the incubator,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I'm gonna love it. And I'm like,
Yeah, it's
oh
gonna be a
dude,
lot
like the
better than
bar is
that.
so low. The bar is so low for us then, because
Yeah.
it's gonna be amazing. But what, and I told you before we started, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to talk too much about the future because I want
Mm.
to get in a habit of like us being like, holy shit, look, I can go to the energy compound. I got it, and go into adventures. And there's all these things to do with my outposts, and there's going to be even more to do with that. And we have so much to do that that, you know, I kind of want to get away from like always having to dangle a carrot about what's coming next. And so but I am just like you guys. I'm super excited for the things that we'll do next, like, and what these systems mean. And I'm also excited about the we want to come up with a way to explain more about how platform works to the community, to anyone who's interested, because we want people, for the longest time, some of the OGs will remember the ideas channel and how much fun that was. But again, it became like this bad place because people would throw ideas out there and they would just get ignored. And it's because we can't do everything. And it sucked to come up with a really good idea and for me to come in there and be like, oh, I love this, but we're not going to do it. And so like if we can get, platform is complex, but if we could like distill down the systems of platform in a way that like people can understand how they work, um you don't have to know, you don't have to be an engineer, but just understand the way they work, then like I think it would allow the community to um come back with ideas that are like, I've read how platform works, I know this is feasible, um and put that up for consideration. And so again, I'm trying not to talk about the future, but like I'm really excited about, you know, what we'll be able to do.
So I just want to make sure, like someone's asking, why use JPEG? Well, a lot of people, I mean, even though Derps have their own marketplace, majority of people, because JPEG is such a big marketplace and that's where most people go to buy and sell. That's where a lot of these derps and all your customized NFTs they're gonna be. Now, as far as traits can be listed at JPEG. Traits can be right. I'm assuming it's an NFT,
Totally.
so it can be listed
Yep.
there. It can be listed on the Derp marketplace. So people are gonna list where volume is or where people's eyes are gonna be. So that's to answer your question, Tori. But I just wanted to go, Dave, like just so I'm getting this right. All the traits, no, once traits, you combine materials and blueprints, and the traits made, it is stored. Like I can go in the Derp marketplace and look up, and you can see that trait and it says King Dave crafted this trait. So we have a global number or idea of what everything that's being crafted and everything that's on the market or that could be on the market, right? Um,
Exactly. That's
okay,
exactly right. Yep.
that's
Because of the
cool.
metadata, yeah, it would allow people to filter, you know, by who created it
Hmm.
or by which faction or attribute or rarity. The power score will also be as well, not maybe not everyone knows, but when you craft, you know, every trait is crafted with power score on a range,
Mm-hmm.
so it could be 100 or 200, for example, or anywhere in between there. And so that will also be captured in the metadata. Yeah, I mean, the kind of goofy thing is like none of it matters. None of it has to be in the metadata, because we have it. That's why we have this asset system that I talked about earlier, where literally everything. By the way, Krista, I mean, for the last like literally 4 days, just from sun up to sundown, has been doing nothing but entering assets into the system. Like it's such a manual. It'll get better. The UX of platform is definitely not what it will become or what it will be later. But so right now it's a very manual process, and so she's doing a ton of work over the last couple of weeks on getting those assets into the system, so that everything will work. And right now, right before I jumped in here, she was double checking all of her work. I mean, it's an insane amount of work. But um, yeah, again, all of that data is captured in our system, but it makes sense to put it in the metadata as well, so that yeah, JPEG can pick it up, or if someone wants to build their own tools around it, which again, something else that hard to see why that would be necessary right now, but it's cool to see like yeah, people build their own tools and analytics and stuff around around these assets. So
So I got a
it'll all
question.
be in the metadata.
I got a question. What can we? Okay, like I know you shared a whole bunch of stuff, but like Monday, everything runs smoothly. Everything, everything runs smoothly. Everything is ready to go. Y'all press the button, whatever button you press to launch it, so that everybody could you type up the long announcement so they let people know that Adventures is live. What do you, Dave, like? Tell us as holders, what can we expect when we jump onto the platform? What do we see? What do we do? Like you you've been testing it. Like what do you go do first? What's the things that you go and you do? Like what's the first 10 minutes I'm doing on platform with Adventures?
Uh, so from a I don't know what everyone's going to experience. Like I meaning I don't know how some people are going to be on mobile, some going to be at home on their computer, iPads, whatever. So the experience is going to vary a bit. It all works on mobile and everything, of course, but the I think like a version of an answer to your question is like what's the strategy? Like, how should you basically coming out of the gate? And I will tell you that like while I no one should feel pressured, right? This isn't a new season of Path of Exile or something kicking off or anything like that. It's not a new expansion. And while I love the competitive aspect, right? That's why it's one of the reasons we have fame is like we want people to compete
Mm.
and to get ahead. And I think, oh, dude, shout out to Lil Thunder. Like, I don't know if you guys have watched the leaderboard. He's climbing
He's
up.
creeping up there.
He's creeping up on
Yeah.
Voix. And
Let's go
so
check. Let
I
me go
will
check real
say,
quick.
in Vegas last week when I got to meet him, I mean he was asking the same thing you're asking about. He's like, what should I do when I get in there? What are my first moves going to be? And like he's pretty serious about being competitive.
Hey, he is 50 58 59,000 power score away from getting on top of being number 1 over Voix. He's number 2 right now.
I didn't think it would ever happen,
That's
but
that's a rank 4 pred. A good one, but or a couple rank
God,
3s.
dude, that's exactly what I expect you to how I expect you to respond. That's a rank four. It's like a rank four pred away. But I think like well, first of all, to comment on that a little bit more, it's like that's an amazing thing. One, I don't want to shift too far away from your question, but one of the things that again we've talked about like pay to win and everything, and how difficult it is to balance these things out. And we've talked about how we've tried to make it fun for everyone, whether you're a small holder or a large holder. And again, this is something that Lil Thunder and I talked about in Vegas. It's just like you have to accept that you can't get it perfect. We cannot get that balance between large holder and small holder perfect. It's not feasible. The one of the things that I really want to see happen, I hope happens, and I believe will happen as NFTs rebound, is I think Derps Actually, I don't think. I know Derps will be a massive recipient of that. It's not just about money and volume, but of the excitement and of the attention and the engagement and the community growth. I know Derps will, and it's not to say other projects won't. People always, I get DMs or whatever. People are like, oh, you always down other projects. That's not what this is about. It's saying, God damn it, Derps have worked so hard over these 3 years, and we haven't slowed down, and we keep
Yeah.
going. And like I have, I'm not even gonna, yeah, I won't even go there. But like
Go there. Go there.
no, because it just sounds like I'm
Okay.
self
Okay. Okay.
pity. But it's we've done all of this. We've thought about things. We 18 months without raising funds, leading up to Outpost. Geek and I don't pay ourselves. Like all of this goes back to building this thing that we love. We put all this time and passion and again, other founders have done that for that project. Awesome for their own project, and that's awesome. They
Mm-hmm.
should. But I have no doubt Derps will again, we don't know what the broader macro market's going to do. We don't know when NFTs are going to rebound. We don't know what crypto is going to do. All those things are outside of our control. If and when they happen, I know Derps we're primed. I keep saying that. All the Derps I'm reaching out to on Twitter, and like I'm telling them, like, dude, now's the time. Now's the time to get active and get engaged. We're primed.
Yes.
So
Yes.
why I'm
Please.
excited for that, I'm like so excited for that because it's you have Voix, you have Hoarder, you have Nomi, you have Ted, you have so many people in the community who, especially you think of Voix and Hoarder. I remember Hoarder always comes to mind for me because he had the Derp a day thing, and he was buying Derps at 20 ADA, 30 ADA, 40
Yeah.
ADA, 50 ADA, and just like buying and that massive wall. And Voix the same, buying at those low, and lots of people buying at those low levels. And I, dude, when I talked to Lil Thunder last week in Vegas, he's like, I'm like, and he's so chill, he's so calm and everything. But I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's so hard, to it's for an outsider to come in and say, I want to compete with Voix, I want to climb up the ladder, I want to be up there with Nomi and Ted and Bit Wilderness and Hoarder and all that. Like you've got that requires a lot of ADA now. And the thing is, yes, it's true. And either you have that amount of money or you don't.
Mm-hmm.
There is no that's it's just black and white. But the other thing that's like worth honoring and respecting so much is just someone who comes and dumps a bunch of money to buy a bunch of derps is all of the core people who were here in 2021 when the floor price was in the teens, when it looked like all this was going to zero, and they're just chipping and buying and buying and collecting and collecting and accumulating. And to me, like, while if you're someone of great means now and you can come in and throw down and buy a bunch of derps, that's awesome. It to me, it's no more awesome than the person who is like, shit, this stuff's going down. We had a 30 floor price last week and it's 25 today. Oh shit, and it's 19 tomorrow. I'm just gonna keep buying. Like
Mm-hmm.
both, I don't know why I'm talking about this right now, but like both are just, they are these things that we should try to hold in sort of reverence, like and equally. Anyways, back to the whole point, like how awesome it is to see like someone new just like come flying up the Power Square leaderboard. I think if you're into your question of how should I prepare, what to do, I think again, we've for season one, people should not feel overly anxious, like, oh, I've got to like really get in there and compete. There's a big luck factor around getting artifacts. There's a big luck factor around which blueprints you're going to unlock. And so the best thing to do is just to realize if you're not fully optimal with like scouting every time your character, the last scouting quest finished, it's okay. There's so many layers of luck that we've tried to implement in here that while a larger holder who's playing fully optimally will do better than someone, a smaller holder who's just sort of half-assing it. There's so many luck factors here that it's going to create some dynamic sort of outcomes. So day launches, get in there, deposit ADA to your account. There is no reason not to. There's literally no
Yeah.
unless you don't trust us. There's no reason not to do it.
That I mean, there are gonna be people that, but man,
For sure, there's going to
I
be someone on Twitter. I guaranteed someone's going to come in here
you're not
and for sure on
decentralized.
Twitter. Dude, exactly. They're like, this is a decentralized, and again, it goes back to what we said earlier. The most beautiful thing about like what's decentralized of Derps is the ownership of the assets. To me, that's the greatest thing. Otherwise, we're a business. right? Derps is a
Yeah.
business. Like we're trying to build a business. And so if we were fully decentralized, that just wouldn't be possible. So deposit your ADA. It's free to do it. It's free to withdraw it at any time. It's so fast. It's instant. And deposit your ADA. Go research because it requires no characters whatsoever, and it doesn't use up any of your action slots. So go start your research. Focus on the researching for the faction that you want to get blueprints for more. Right, so you can only do so many researches at a time. So if you want more derp traits, then go spam your derp research instead of using your research capacity for pred. I'm already going to recap. Go deposit data to your account, go spam your research, unlock the action. Depending upon how many derps you have, you can immediately start unlocking action slots, like purchasing them.
Mm-hmm.
It's one click if you have ADA deposited into your account. And
Now
then
what does that look like? So just so I mean, I know people might have read the threads or might have looked through but if they haven't, action slots you have, I think they're on the guidebook. It says 3 unlocked, ready to go, ready to use no matter what, every account, right? And then there's
yes,
10 that are available to they're unlocked, but they're not usable. They're available for purchase right off the bat for anyone, right? Is that do I have those
exactly.
numbers right?
Yeah, I'm looking at the spreadsheet now. So everyone starts with 3 open.
Okay.
Open means that they're available to be
Yeah, you can use
used.
them.
Yep. And then you have 4 through 13, so that's 10, that are unlocked, which
Mm-hmm.
means they can be purchased.
Purchase.
They're 8 ADA. And everyone has access to them. Then there are 14 through 22, so that's 8 total that are unlocked through campaigns.
Okay.
And so again, they're locked by default and they move to unlocked, which means they can be purchased.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 8, one, 2 of them you would use ADA to purchase, and then the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 are you purchase with derp dollars.
Oh, that's cool.
And so yeah, we kind of want to have those as like the bonus. Like if you get through those with the ADA, and again, I'll repeat this again. We've said that like for the average participant who's coming in, average is someone around 5 derps, 5 and 8,
Yeah.
5 to 10, somewhere around there. That you should be able to get through this season. You wouldn't need all the action slots, by
Mm-hmm.
the way, and we want to be very transparent about that. Like, don't buy them if you don't need them. But you should not be spending anywhere close to what you spent on minting a single outpost. And
Yeah.
so that was 495,
495.
485. Yeah, and so it's nowhere close to that. For that average player. So again, that will scale up for people who want to fully customize all their characters. They would spend more, but and so again, while you asked about action slots, the last
9.
9,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, the last 9 of those action slots are, you won't even know. Well, the last 9 are for holding perfect specimens or pure preds.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect specimen derps or pure preds. Each perfect or pure gives you 3 extra slots that are straight into the open state. You don't have to purchase them. As long as you're holding that derp or pred, you'll have those, and you won't even realize it. You're just like, in fact, I was talking to Geek today. I was like, hey, I only see that there's 3 perfect slots here on the action slots. He's like, that's because you have 2 perfects. I was like, oh,
So
because they're just in the open
it
state.
jumps up into your open like where your active ones are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. They're just like, because they're in order of open and then unlocked and then locked and then perfect.
So how does that mechanic work? Like I know, like, so you have your action slots. When you click on an action slot, does it take you to like where you want to go, or how does that mechanism work? Because like if I want to go on a quest, do I go do a quest and then it just uses an action slot, or do I specifically?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, it would just use the action slot. So clicking on the slots today will pop open a window that tells you about them.
Okay.
If they are, sorry, that's if they're locked, or if it's the perfect specimens, it'll tell you how you can get them. So it kind of gives you a little thing that you can read to learn about how to get them. If you have a quest that is in progress, and you'll see the faction that it's for and its progress, how far along that activity is. You can click it to get the activity modal for that quest. It'll tell you all the quest details, the characters that you've sent on the quest, what the potential
Okay.
rewards are, and all of that,
Awesome.
what your chance for success are. If it's in the completed state, if the action slot's representing a quest that is incomplete, you can click it to get the outcome window where you can claim all your rewards and see the outcome and
Okay,
so
so
on.
when you're in the platform, you don't have to go to the questing section or the scouting section to see your. You can all see it on those action slot windows as they pop up.
Ex-
So keep it all in one
Exactly.
spot.
And there's an activity view in the app as well,
Okay.
that you can jump over to, and you can see it like in
Oh yeah,
like
I
a
remember that
row.
screenshot. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you can go over there too and do it. I will say, again, always want to be super transparent. I did so much testing today, and I'd like to see the performance a bit better on this area of the app, like because people are going to be coming in and emptying tons of materials and stuff out of their, from the quest outcomes. I feel like it just feels a little sluggish sometimes. Sometimes it's like super fast and butter. But yeah, just because we're talking about the nitty gritty, I feel like there's so again, especially for the large accounts who are just going to be like coming in, collecting rewards, queuing back up for more scouting quests. I'd like that to get, we have some quality of life improvements we want to make. One of which is um, not just performance, but also, let's say you come in, let's say you even checked in for a couple days and you have 30 slots that have like quest outcomes that you've got to go click through and get rewards from. That's going to be fun like the first time you do it, and then the second time you're going to be
Yeah.
miserable. And so having a button, again, I don't think this is really any challenge, but it won't be in for launch, is being able to basically say like conclude all of my completed quests and collect all rewards, and maybe even restart. So restart every time that you view a quest outcome. There's a restart button,
Oh,
and so you
awesome.
can
So
collect
you
your
don't have to
rewards.
redo all this stuff. You just say, "Hey, go back out." Like go I
Exactly.
want to I want this crew of Preds to be going to lava loads for scouting and I want to keep that crew, so you just keep restarting them going every 4 hours.
Exactly. Exactly. Like
Awesome.
there is that middle ground, but again, balance in 2080 that I tweeted about the other day. Like there's so many outposts are such a perfect example of this, of like if you're a large holder, it's kind of a pain in the ass to do a lot of the things. Some huge improvements we need to make there. But with adventures, it's kind of this. We've tried to do better, much better than we did with outposts, and making it easier to use. But the yeah, there's going to be some quality of life improvements that we can make pretty quickly after launch. And again, I'm telling you guys, and especially you, Malau, like you've been here from the start. Like there's always this pressure for us to like rush to the next thing, jump to the next thing, constantly be. And I think with the launch of Adventures, at least is what I'm telling myself, is dude, we're, we're finally here. I mean, we have all these other
We've
plans,
made it.
that we want to execute on. But like, dude, we're here. Like
Yeah.
we have this thing that is this provides this ability for us to do exactly what we've always had a lot of fun in doing. And it feels like a lot of the I don't want to say the pressure, like we have so much we want to do, and like it's not like we're gonna rest on our laurels here or anything, but like um we want it's gonna feel like I think we're gonna be able to sort of exhale and be like, cool, we have this thing. um Bajewski and Lua are sort of like cranking on the next major layer of content. You have Golden, who's on board as well, and they're working away at these next layers of content. In the meantime, Geek and I are we're doing something else. Maybe we're working on Gold Rush and bringing some improvements there. Maybe we're adding those quality of life improvements to adventures that that we're talking about right now. There's just this ability for us to like not feel as if we are. I mean, dude, again, and core community will know this. Like the worst feeling is like when we're behind, when we feel like
Mhm.
we've let the community down. And it will finally feel like with adventures, for sure. There's going to be people who speed run the content and are like, I've got all the stuff done. Like, when do I get the next thing?
Win,
Um,
win.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But to be honest, like, and I know the next thing is always gonna be fun and exciting. The next layer of content, dude. I want to talk about the next layers of content right now. Like, I want to talk. Like,
You can do it. It's all
they're
right.
gonna be so much fun. Like we should talk about one. We
Okay,
should talk
let's do
about
it.
one. Like I'm literally just going back on everything that I've just said, and I'm gonna
We're
talk about the
talking about the
future. But like
future, talking about stuff that
right
isn't
away.
ready yet.
But I mean, there's so many of these layers of content, dude. Like that I'll just say that like all of the things that we, not all of the things is not all of those things are good ideas, but all of these ideas we've all been kicking around and
We
thinking
can
about,
finally
for the
tackle
years,
them
like
and
exactly
attempt them.
in a way that would be feasible. But now we can take them much further. And I will we'll talk here in a second about like one that we're for sure gonna work on. But I'll use once again rescue missions as an example, which is not the one that we're moving towards right now. It is not the next one's coming out. But I'll just say that like I was in the shower yesterday and I was just thinking about platform, and I'm like, dude, the the way that we can do rescue missions now, it can be so much more than just I'm holding a derp or I'm holding a prod which is associated to a derp that's in that locked wallet. It can have so many more layers of fun and chance, and it needs to be like a very high probability of failure, I think, for something like rescue missions. Like those are things that like you're getting these assets. Imagine the floor price of derps is 2,000 and you have a chance at getting one of those assets. There's a deity in there. There's a perfect specimen deity in there. Like imagine that you have the chance to get that. And what more can we do with that? How can we make it that again, I'm just sort of spitballing here. Like I have the pred that's associated with that derp. Maybe that means me as the holder of that pred, like I get the chance to create something that I can then, it's an NFT, it's like a blueprint or something. It's a key, a
A
prison
master
card, a key
key.
card or something. Yeah, like, but like it's something that I've created that I can say, you know what? It was hard to craft this thing. I'm gonna try to craft another one, but like I have this one. It's hard to craft this thing. I'm gonna go sell it on JPEG or the Dirt Marketplace or Way Up, and let someone else take that thing and let them roll the dice and see if they're successful in the rescue mission. Like there's all of these layers now that it doesn't have to be this. I have the pred. I'm gonna go get the derp because while I know some of us are gonna be like, yeah, just that's what I want. Just let me get those derps out of prison and those derplings out of prison. I think we'd be doing ourselves a huge disservice if like there's this huge build up to this moment, and now we have all of these fun ways to create this. And again, what I've just said about that no one should take that to the bank. Like I'm not saying that's the way that we're doing it, but I'm just saying like, and by the way, there will be the awesome thing about having the team that we have now is they will also contribute. The whole community is welcome to contribute ideas as well. Again, that's what I've said. Is I want to get the community back involved and coming up with ideas again, while also making it a surprise for everyone. But we have a whole team now to help come
Okay,
up with these things.
I have a request, and this is a small request. If or when rescue missions happen, all those derps are legacy collection, right? None of them have been rebirthed, correct?
That's right.
I have a request that if that happens and they're rescued, obviously they have to be rebirthed to interact with the platform and do adventures and outposts and stuff. I request that whenever you rebirth a prison, if we can do this, whenever you rebirth a prison derp, that they have a prison mic bandana, purple bandana opportunity to like only like a few, like only like a
Okay.
handful can.
Look, let me tell you, I can't say if
That'd
we'll
be
do that,
awesome.
but let me tell you how you can do it really easily with platform. We have gear, or sorry, we have base traits, we have gear, and we have cosmetics, right?
Mm.
Every single attribute. So if you're looking at a dirt bird, it has for its body, it has its base trait, which is like buff, for example. I can throw on gear that will change the visual, it'll change my buffs, but you would no longer have the buff body, right? You'd be overriding it with a different body. And
Wait,
then you have
who would
cosmetic.
want to do that?
I don't
Okay,
psychopath for
all right.
sure. But dude, listen. I'm about to go down a long rabbit hole. But like, you guys know that with the preds, all of their faces are getting new cosmetics, right? That means if you have a pred that has the Gordo face, I think Golden did like 4 or 5 new Gordo faces, and so the only people that can use those Gordo faces are preds that have the base Gordo face. Like I love saying that, the base Gordo face. And so now not only does that like feel really fun and special, like but and I've talked about this on Freedom 35 as well, but like the things that we get to do with those base traits, like a deity trait, we don't want to dilute deity traits. We don't want to have anything that resembles a buff, for example. And I think we did a little too much of that with Rebirth. We made some of the other birds a little too buff. but like we don't want to introduce new buff traits that like anyone can just go craft this new trait and then they have a buff bird. Right? We want to maintain that specialness, like that collectability of it. But now what we can do is introduce cosmetics for buffs. If you have a buff base body that allows you like to change the look of your buff, but it doesn't it
Yeah.
doesn't increase the supply of of buff birds that exist. And so in the same way, the prison mic bandana is you could have those birds once they rebirth is they have a cosmetic for head that's only they can get. It's not craftable or
That'd be
anything like
awesome.
that. It's not an NFT, which means if you unequip, if you remove that cosmetic, you're not getting an NFT or anything. It's just you can apply it and update the metadata of your bird and it will have that on there, but you can't unequip that bandana to get an NFT
Yeah,
that you
yeah.
could sell. So,
Yeah,
dude,
dude, I
eh,
remember this. I'm excited about customization and everything because, like, I remember early on, you could probably still, well,
I
Pred
do,
Cave.
dude. I remember what if they have tattoos or
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
scars from
Scars from,
Faction Wars and
yeah, yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
Like, yeah, exactly. Like that. All of those things. Like again, I this isn't a commitment to any one path or idea, but like all of those things. I don't want to also don't want to set the impression that that's free. Like we could just platform makes it feasible from a tech point of view. We
yeah,
still have
yeah.
to think about story, world, IP, the artwork, the time that has to go into like I mean a big part too is like how does that merge with other things? How does the artwork conflict, potentially with other attributes, which platform helps us resolve as well. But um dude, we really I I'm I'm so excited. Again, I talked about earlier, like, what if NFTs, if they really rebound? This is why I feel like we are in such a strong position to be able to like, it's not I think so many NFT projects, including Derps, all NFT projects, oftentimes they go, parabolic or whatever, or go on a run because of some big news or announcement.
Mhm.
That's not what this is about. That's not like why I'm excited for this next sort of, if NFTs do really have a big moment. I'm excited because during all of that time, right, when volume's coming in and there's more people coming in, the community's growing and engagement's up and all of that, there's just all of these things. Like it's just going to be news, new content launching. Someone got this super awesome special one of one type thing. Someone got this awesome, really cool outcome, and it's fun for the community to discuss it. It's fun for you or Voix or anyone to like jump on Discord and be like, guys, I'm about to craft a unique,
Yeah,
like all of these things. Or we talked about like the duration of content. For sure, there's going to be content that is 7 days or 20 days at some point. Like there's going to
yeah.
be some like special thing that you can go do, and then like maybe it's very costly to do it. It costs a bunch of derp dollars, or you need that master key or whatever, and then getting to see the outcome of that is like something that you want to jump on and live stream. Like guys, I'm about to see what I got from this,
That's what I was
and
thinking about. I was like, man, how much of this can like I'll be able to like share my screen and like show people like, hey, look, this is what's going on to record. Like that's why I was asking about like the process of like what would you do when you first step into the platform, like, and how it looks and if it's stuff that you want to be able to share like and stream and stuff. Well, I think once you get to start crafting, like say you get a whole bunch of blueprints, a whole bunch of materials, but you don't craft anything yet, and like I can wait. There's the global limit's not anywhere close yet, so I can, or if it's common and uncommon, you're just trying to get a variant, like almost doing like CS:GO streamers will just do open a bunch of boxes to try to get
yeah,
knives and skins,
yeah,
so like that'd be cool, like to just set aside all these materials and all these blueprints and just have like a craft day and where you're just crafting stuff and trying to see if you get like cool variants and stuff. That'd be fun.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm
Um,
super excited. Like it's gonna be a lot of
one
fun.
of the questions I think I know the answer, but I'll let you answer it. Will cyborgs get their holes back?
Yeah, 100%. Like I'll say it's I just threw that out there. But it's not in for season one. We have one. I won't say which. I'll leave it at this. We have one. Um, so I told you we were doing it with pred faces. It was so obvious to us that we should do it with pred faces because it's what makes up. It's the pred's personality, right? It's the eyes, it's the
Mm-hmm.
mouth, it's everything. And so in a way, I love the diversity of derps because we have the beak, we have the ears, we have the the eyes and everything are separate traits. But derps don't have, at least we don't ever show this, that their beaks are open, so they can't smile. They don't have those expressions.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that's really fun. We have a new little 8 second sort of like the animation that we launched last week. The Let's Adventure GIF. We have another one that will drop next week that is so much fun. But seeing Golden animate these like and working with the how do you achieve expressions for derps? It's so easy for Preds because they have mouths and
Yeah,
everything.
it's
But
difficult
for
for
derps,
yeah.
exactly. And Jamie back in the day when he did the the animated series, like the like the mumbling and stuff and like the vibrating beats, like that's a fun sort of, it's fun that that's a limitation we have. And we may not adhere to that forever. We may want to have, show beaks that are open and have them be able to smile. That would be terrifying, I think. But it was so obvious with Preds. We're like, oh my god, we should have variations of faces because it's the Preds personality, and like being able to, you guys have seen some of the faces for Gordo, so like the Gordo stash, like
Mm-hmm.
being able to like give your Gordo a mustache, like that's really cool and fun, and not new technology, like that's been character creation stuff since the 90s, but like it's just really fun. And we're also not the first, like so I'm but the going back to the cyborg, yeah, for sure want to bring it back. But we're doing it with one derp trait initially that is it's not a trait that is like the most popular legacy trait or anything like that. It's not one that like people are gonna be like, oh my god. But yeah, I think it's a very special trait, and I won't confirm or deny anything that you might guess. But it's one that I love Cosmo's take on it as well. And I in some ways think it's more logical the way that Cosmo landed
I
on
know what
for
it,
it,
I know what it is.
but it's one that I think we all miss from Legacy. And so I'm so, dude, I'm way more excited about this idea of us just being able to introduce cosmetic, base locked cosmetics. Like I am
Okay,
so excited for
explain
that.
that because someone was confused with you using the word locked. What are you getting at right there?
It just means that that scenario I described with the buff earlier,
Okay, yeah.
it's locked in that you can, those cosmetics are it's not a good term. It's also super verbose, like but I'm really bad at naming things. But like yeah, it basically just means you have this trait, this base trait on your derp. Let's say a buff body, for example. Those no more buff bodies will ever exist.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't want to introduce new traits that even look like buff. It doesn't mean they can't have a bit of muscle or something like that, but we don't want to introduce something that like feels like the buff body. And again, I feel like we did too much of that with Rebirth, where we made some of the characters too jacked. But it means that it's locked, meaning you can only get that cosmetic option if you have the base traits. I would go in, I would select my buff bird, and I would go over to the cosmetic. And it doesn't just mean it's there by default. Those pred faces and this one that we're doing for derps initially, it's just there out of the box. As soon as people start, they can go in and immediately change their pred faces. Um, that and the same for the one derp trait that we're doing. But we will for sure introduce blueprints, or not even blueprints. Imagine there's a quest piece of content that you go and do, and one of the outcomes is there's no reason to craft it. It's just a new cosmetic that's unlocked on your account. That's It doesn't even always have to be tied to a base trait. It's just like the prison Mike
Yeah.
example you gave. It's just there as a result of the fact that that bird came from the prison, the pred prison. And so yeah, outcome, you go on a quest, and like there's a small chance that during on that quest, on that piece of content, you get a cosmetic option that's just available for you to use on any of your characters at that point.
Yeah, and making the
That's
quest part of the quest what you're going to get. Like the story of the quest is, hey, I'm going to get this mask, this special
yeah, exactly.
magical mask or whatever, and once you complete it, you get that cosmetic or yeah,
Exactly.
that's cool. I have a couple people asking, and I know you guys. And listen, Bajewski has been a godsend, I think, with for everything that he's done up until once he's joined, like all the art, everything. I mean, he's. Are you still there? Okay, yeah, it looked like your camera
Yeah, yeah,
froze.
I'm here.
Um,
Oh,
and
sorry.
so yeah, kudos to you, Bajewski, if you're watching or whatever, man. I've seen, being in the project, I've seen just how much Dave and the team has been able to just accelerate everything they're doing. And if it wasn't for that acquisition, I think we'd still be, hey, wins adventures, and it's not 3 days away. Is it 3 days away? 4 days away? Something like that.
Is it not 10? Are you sure it's not 10
It
days
feels
away?
like it. But my question is, and I know it's been talked about, and I know, even Bajewski, I've seen him comment. There is talks of implementing vamps within the ecosystem in some kind of way. Can you touch on that, or it hasn't been solidified, or is there something that is that something that you guys
Yeah,
have talked about in depth?
we've talked about it so much. Like, I mean, all the way from the start, when we yeah, first acquired the team, like it was, and you guys will remember the roadmap from last year that we put out right after Brzezinski came on board. Again, roadmaps are fun. We're never going to stop doing those visual roadmaps. I don't care if they're like so 2021. Like, it's super fun for us. And I hope it's fun for the community. But yeah, we threw some stuff on there. We're like, yeah, we're for sure going to get to that this year. And that was part of it. That's why, you guys saw the my derp and geeks
Mm-hmm.
derp, like with the vampire wings stuff. He's like, yeah, but um we knew in the same way that we threw out adventures at the beginning of the year and restarted, we were like, yeah, this has to wait until platform comes through. One, because it's going to be way more efficient for us to do it that way. Let's build platform and then let's use platform to bring vamps in. But number two is with platform, we'll be able to do it in a much more fun way. And so we've talked about it a lot. We have several ideas. Interestingly, the story is hard to make work on this one. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to imagine just like a large faction of vampires running around Derpatonia, and so it's not that easy. It's not, I can't stress that enough, that like I know it's not interesting to everyone, but the story and the world and the IP, um,
It's
I
much
actually
big. It's much bigger than just Web3 and NFTs.
it
Like, you're
is
trying to build something beyond that.
much
Yeah.
larger. Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, I know it's easy for people to roll their eyes and stuff like that, but like, to me, like the future opportunities that we have, like, it's not to say, I mean, we could talk about Star Wars and some of their recent deliverables and stuff, and like how it seems to be sacrilege and go against all the existing IP and the story. So it's not like that we couldn't go back on story later, but we really don't want to have to do, and we've done that before. We've had to like flip flop and sort of massage things out that we didn't quite think through. But now that is so
Female
important
derps.
to us. Yeah, exactly. Like, where are the female derps? Like, they haven't been explained. But but the with vamps, like, I mean, even with Preds to a degree, like we got, sometimes you get a little too far away from derp, from things being derpy and ridiculous and
Mhm.
and whatnot. And by the way, that's why working with Bajewski and Golden, they are such great artists for us to work with, because I knew as soon as I saw Golden's work, I'm like, oh man, that dude gets derp. Like, even though he has no idea who we are, like what derps are, like
Mm.
I always knew he'd be a good fit for ours. And then Bajewski's so like twisted that they were able to, I think, both of them are both doing this, but Bajewski's played such a big part in this, and like bringing derps back to where we want it to be, that sort of niche, sort of crude humor and audience. It's not really supposed to be for kids, like where we want to take it. We don't want to be like just overly vulgar or anything, but it's not really supposed to be for little kids. And we'll always have derplings, we always want to do stuffies, but where was I going? Oh, so the story is so important that we really have to think that one through. And so we have a few big ideas for like story, for how to work them in. And I think it's coming down to two that we're sort of debating. Like, what, and here's here's why Derps is an entertainment brand. The story that we pick, like, will then influence how, and not how it's implemented, because it'll be implemented the same way everything is, through a lot of technology and code, but the way that we ship it, the story that's told, the
Mhm.
interactive, entertaining, rewarding experience that people will get to have in adventures, um that the story that we land on will influence all of that. It'll influence the, how we want to bring them in, what, what artwork would look like, what all of the marketing collateral would be, the music that, sort of overlays the trailers and stuff. Like, it'll influence all of those things, and that's why it's so important for us to get the story right. So I'll say that the from a technical point of view, we know it'll be platform. Like, it'll be some type of quest like content, just like I described, like the rescue missions. They could take on so many different forms, right? Like, maybe it's crafting a key card or something, and then you can sell that and someone else can attempt the rescue mission. The way that we implement vamps will be, it could be just as creative as that. There could be multiple steps. It could be that there's a lot of crafting involved. It could be, there's a lot of ways for us to do it. And so what I think might be interesting to the large vamp holders in the community is, we gotta think about how to make it, how to hit the right balance of, if you're a huge holder of vamps, we don't want it to take you 12 months to be able to bring those into the ecosystem in the way that we implement them. But I think what's likely true is, we also don't want it to be this one and done. If Bob, I know Bob's not like big in the Derp community, but he's got like 900 vamps or whatever.
Mhm.
Like, we want it. Pred V2 is just like a little taste of like how fun these things can be, and Rebirth for that matter is the same, in that it's this long drawn out event. We keep going back to this recurring theme of like, things shouldn't feel rushed. People don't need, we don't want people to like ape in and be reckless. We want it to be this like fun, enjoy the ride. If you have 900 of them, it's going to be it's going to be a grind no matter what.
Yeah.
But we want it, we have to hit the right balance of, story has to be perfect for this. And I'm not worried about the entertaining sort of like interactive content. I know that we'll nail that no matter what, but the story is very important. And then the balance, right? Again, I think a huge thing that's really positive about Derps is that we do have a bunch of NFTs. It means that, people can participate in the ecosystem. We want to do so much more with that. Like, I don't mean more NFTs, but I mean, like, we want people to be able to like grab a derpling and then be able to do so much more with that. So it's a big thing, but we, at the same time, and everyone will understand this, we don't want to just flood the derp ecosystem with a whole ton of more NFTs. So
Yeah.
those are the things to get right. But yeah, we have some ideas, and again, it's a layer of content. It's not like something that, it could be tied to a season, but it'll likely be like its own layer of content. And
Um,
yeah,
I don't know how long you want to, if you want to keep going, or I mean, we're at it's
uh,
8:30 my time.
probably it's 7:30 my time. Probably need to wind it down by 8 my time. So yeah,
Okay.
next 25 or so minutes.
Let's see what I want to kind of put. I don't know if the new drape that people saw, the artwork. If you looked in the guidebook,
Mac.
yeah, Mac, you know that this isn't Drape 2.0. It's just the AI avatar that they're going with. And so I wanted to touch on that. Like, uh, I know Airfon is like always probably, I don't know if he's DMing you or not, but I see it on Twitter. He's always like Drake 2.0 and I'm not gonna stop, you know. But anyway, to touch on the AI, how is that? Does that AI bot, are y'all training it for like Discord and guidebook and stuff like that? Are y'all training it on Twitter at all? I don't see how, I don't know if y'all can or how difficult that is. But like whenever that is able to be used, is it just like I'm in Discord and I type in, "Hey Mac, what is the materials needed for this trait?" Like, is it that advanced where I can be like, I don't, or let me ask you this: is it advanced enough to be connected to like the Derp marketplace and JPEG to, or I mean, or at least our app in a way to be like, hey,
Mhm.
what is the best power score per ADA deal on the market?
Yeah, I mean, the answer to all those questions is yeah. We could do all of that.
Mm-hmm.
The challenge that we have is, where ChatGPT or any AI that you may interact with, if it gets it wrong, they're not responsible
Mm,
for, like, if you
yeah.
ask, like, yeah, like what's considered a, at what point should, my temperature worry me, and should I go to the doctor or whatever, like, they're not responsible for that. They're citing other things. I feel like this is a bot we're building that's sanctioned, that's sort of like within our ecosystem. The thing that we know, similar to what I said with vamps, is like, it can't we honestly, it would be, I would rather not have it than to have it and it be wrong often. Like, it's okay every now and then if it's not perfectly accurate, but because it could lead to people making purchases and things like
Hmm.
that, we really can't have it be wrong. And so the thing that's difficult is, let's say it understands everything about derps on Twitter, right? It can just read everything, every tweet from a derp on Twitter, every announcement, all of those things. Is it will, and there's ways to split this, but it's still tricky. It will sometimes conflate, like, let's say you ask it a question, like, what's the utility of derplings? And this is a common question that I give it as I'm like testing it. What's the utility of derplings? Now, that's laid out clearly in the guidebook. There's a utility section on the derpling page, and it has a table of items. And sometimes it's spot on, it nails it. Other times it will basically try to be creative on its own. And we can control that. We can control how dry it is and how much it just copy pastes the guidebook. But if it has access to, let's say, Derpers General, it's gonna be like, what can I use eggs? And then it's gonna come back with all of the memes and ridiculous jokes that that the community come up with, and it's gonna think those are valid, or potentially it could think that it could use that information. And so we can segregate. We can, like, put information, say, when someone asks a question, use this content, only use this
Hmm.
content. But it's okay for you to have all of this other knowledge that we might use for other functions. But we're not able to spend as much time working on it as what we'd like, obviously, because we're working on adventures. But what I think the first version of it will look like is it's gonna understand the context of the guidebook, it's gonna have full context of the guidebook. It's gonna understand it really well. In fact, shout out to Nomi, who's been helping with write some, like, FAQs for some of these pages in the guidebook. Um, where it's content that probably someone doesn't want to go down and read. It's going to be like just a ton of extra content at the very bottom of some of the pages. Um, but we're mostly putting it in there so that it's just that's the best content for the bot to use, because it's like, if someone asks, like, yeah, how many derplings are there, where did derplings come from? Well, if that's a question that's in the FAQ, there's a very high probability that it'll see that in the FAQ and be like, oh, well, here's the answer. And so it doesn't have to, it's just easy for it to answer. So to answer your question, like, we could do a lot with it. We will do a lot with it. Eventually moving it into the apps. So, you could, like, be in adventures and ask questions right in adventures and not have to bounce back to Discord. But we want to get to a point first and foremost where it's very accurate and it's based purely on the guidebook, and it's not reading my tweets and confusing that with answers to
Yeah.
questions. So yeah, it'll be some. It'll we actually, I'll tell you guys, like, we were wanting to have it deployed before adventures. And when I test it, I mean, it's good. It's really good a lot of the time. But, like, sometimes I'll ask it a basic question, and I'm like, what? Where is it getting this from? Like, it's
Yeah.
just so bizarre because it's supposed to be coming straight from the guidebook. And so I'm like, I no, I would be terrified if someone read some of the answers. Like, it's too
I
far
can't.
off.
I can't imagine how fun the community, uh, the memes. It'd be
Dude,
ridiculous.
imagine if the community were able to, like, influence the content
Oh,
that the bot's
it'd be
trained on.
horrible.
Like,
It'd
it
be
would
horrible.
be hilarious, though. But
Don't
yeah, it
let
would
Mimi
just
have
be,
access to
oh my
Mac.
god, no, that catastrophe.
Someone asked, will the master key unlock something? Now, listen, let's can we squash this? I don't know if you squashed it before, but this whole utility of the master key, where did that start? Because I don't.
Like a lot of things back then,
It was just the key,
I
and I guess people assume that it unlocks something, right?
like, when James was on the team, when Art Derp was on the team, like, a lot of times, it was less so true for the legacy Derpbirds, but by the time, Derplings were 2 months later. I was about to say, by the time we got to
Yeah.
Derplings, but like a lot of it was just for the better, by the way. He was just sort of riffing and going off and doing crazy things. I like to be really involved about like, we should do this and this and this and these traits. And I can't remember. I honestly, sincerely cannot remember. I do remember having a conversation about the Master Key with Geek and Arts or James, and saying like but I can't remember if it was like planned, like, hey, let's do like a big key, or if James came up with it and then we were like, let's let people run. This will be great. We'll let people be crazy with these. But for sure, it looked really cool. And
I
for
mean,
what it's worth,
history's repeating itself. I mean, how many times did there was a golden egg behind the ear, and the like all
exactly.
this. Wait, is that the trait y'all are bringing back? No,
No,
no, okay,
that
yeah,
that it'll be. God, I said I wouldn't confirm or deny. Like, but yeah, it's not that one.
okay.
But I won't confirm or
It's
deny
probably
any of
Millie
these. But
eyes though.
I'm not confirming or denying anything. Uh, you're like, it's probably Millie eyes. But it there was definitely nothing nefarious planned for the game. We didn't want to miss again. That's not anything we've ever tried to do. Or like mislead people intentionally to go buy certain things. But for sure, it's a really interesting topic. It would actually be cool to talk to Bajewski or Golden about this, about how you could come up with an idea for a trait, and sometimes you draw the trait, you come up with, I'm not an artist, but like I've been involved with so many of these conversations and like feedback sessions where it's like, dude, is this trait awesome and we want it to be pretty common because we want it to be frequent, or is it awesome and we want it to be super rare so it's almost never seen? And if the master key had been just spammed, if we had made them like a very
Yeah,
common trait, I think it would be less likely that people speculate and are like, oh, it's going to be for something. But I will say now though, um that again, I don't want to mislead anyone, but we're about to launch platform, and the ability for us to do fun things with those traits that the community, we never made buff popular, the community did.
mhm.
We never made master key like, I'm sure we sort of stoked the flames a bit when people are like, what's this for, and we're like, we don't know.
And it's kind of in the name
But
too. It's like a master key. Like it's like
it unlocks something, it's got to be.
Yeah,
But the community have picked up a lot of these things, like Gordo. Like we never. I think
yeah.
that was the first. I think that was the first face that we revealed. Like when we revealed one attribute, we did that cool series of tweets. Like
Oh yeah,
we
with
did the mutant wings
just
for the back.
the certain
Yeah, on
traits.
the
Yeah.
silhouettes.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think it was the Gordo face. I remember there was like, I was worried, and sure enough, there was some backlash. So people were like, these Preds are so ugly. A lot of people immediately loved it, but yeah, I think it was the Gordo face. So yeah, a lot of it, dude. I'll say like we're almost out of time here, but like it's a cool note to maybe try to end on is, um, that's the best things. Like my favorite, and like I want to get back to so much more of that, because like it's where so much of the fun happens in the project, is like being immersed in the memes and the culture that comes from that, and the impact and influence it has on the project. Like Gordo is now a significant part. Like he's baked into the when you're not going to see references to him in like the campaigns or anything coming up, but in the same way that like Snell Racing is a part of
Mhm.
Derpatonia. We haven't put out anything except for the roadmap last year that sort of like showcases that we sort of have adopted that as a thing. But we have this cool sort of, I guess you would call it like sort of a lore doc or whatever. Like it's sort of this it's not really a genesis or anything, but it's sort of like this all this backstory and lore and everything, and how everything comes together, and all these details of the story that we haven't really fleshed out. And Snell Racing is a part of that. Like it's a part of the culture of Derpatonia.
Mhm.
And to just say like how to sort of, I guess, finish that thought is, the Derps came over, the Derpbirds came over from old Derpatonia, and they brought their Snells with them to New Derpatonia. That wasn't Snell Racing was the thing that the Derps brought over, and it's a part of their culture that Derp apes get mindlessly addicted to. Is watching snail races and betting on snail races and all these things. And so like that I don't even know where snail that whole like thing sort
I
of
think I
stemmed
think it
from.
started. Someone posted a meme of like fly off's head on a snail. And then like it kind of, you know how a meme start in the Derp Discord, like it started there and then it advanced to like, I think there was like a tank, a army tank, and I don't, it just went from there. And then I think Highwind grabbed it and he
Of
started
course,
making the art
I'm
with Derps riding the snails and stuff.
yeah, the
I
little
I'm a
derplings
little I'm a little
and
rusty
then
on how that all evolved, but it evolved into what it was. I actually the buff origin story I was writing, the very last chapter I write was like they go and they're in Bretonia and they're at betting on snail races, and like that's the last thing. It was funny that
dude,
you said that.
I mean, in my mind, the snail race or derp snails do have an appearance in the derp campaign. I'll say that. Like
Oh,
they
awesome.
we make an appearance, or we sort of reference snails. And I think I even I think we went a bit overboard with it to a degree even. But the in my mind, dude, I mean, dude, I can just like see. I mean, like. Again, just to keep running with that theme and like why it's so. I said this last night on Clays After Dark. Is we want to build this world. We want there to be one thing I don't well, I guess I neither I don't really hate it, but like I think people see derps. It's always been like this from day one. We're like, oh, derp is in the name, and like that's a dumb. They're dumb, They're them. But like, uh, yeah, here we go. One of the things that I've always loved is that there are these opportunities for people to be creative, and we want to be able to open that up even more. And we've talked about like how that may take shape through like campaigns. We may do like a community campaign where it's like yeah, Buff Orange's story, for example, that's in there. But the the cool I mean some of the coolest things like we could never do it on our own, and being able to like build and shape a world that's made up of like these things that started as just like small community jokes to the point where like the the derps escaped to New Derpatonia. We know the Preds are in pursuit, right? Like they wanna
Hmm.
take they're not gonna stop. And so, what does that conflict look like? How long does it go on? When if the Preds make it to New Derpatonia, what happens? Maybe in my mind, again, being a big Star Wars fan, is um, I think of the early Star Wars movies, the original trilogy, and like we're on the planet of Tatooine, and actually there's the prequel series as well where they have the pod
Pod racers.
racers,
Hmm.
and like you have like it's sort of like this underground betting and gambling on things, but like in my mind I'm like, man, this snail racing thing is so entertaining and fun, and people get they love gambling on it, that even Preds, after this conflict is drawn out for
They
so
get addicted
long
to it.
on the planet, is dude, yeah, they're like sneaking in. You have like Preds who have like like robes or whatever, and they're
I
like sneaking in and betting and stuff on it, and like dude, it's just those are my favorite things to think
I
about.
think
Like
there's
I
an
love
actual
that.
picture of like a race that Highwind did, and there's like a whole bunch of it's not a pred, but it's Baldo. Baldo's in it. Like there's all bunch of derps watching the stories, and Baldo's there. But yeah, that's what projects should do. Like if you're a well-run project, having the community feedback and listening to that's one thing you guys have done, and y'all have done it well throughout these last 3 years now. um, is something like that happens and you run with it. It may be in a big way and maybe in a small way, but you listen and you get that feedback, and that's what's been huge about derps. And I know you were not struggling, but you were trying to last night on this the Twitter space, Clays After Dark. You were trying to explain like how did this community happen? Like it's one thing to have a great community, but it's another thing to give ownership to that community. And the way you do that is running with these ideas, is leaning into snail racing that started off as a meme in the Discord and then just grew from there. And then now look, you're putting it in campaign for adventures. So it's like it's one
Dude,
thing.
and one day on animated series in Hulu, like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm so serious about that, but like literally, yeah, seeing that just become a part of the culture in the world that ends up going on to become an IP that ends up being getting to be an animated series on Fox News. Like that to me, like that's just that's awesome. And when I think like again, to, we talked about Web3 earlier and well, decentralization, like it. There's so many other ideas. I mentioned this on CAD last night as well, is that the ability to take the community with us. One of the things that our buddy at Family Guy has mentioned, like he's so fascinated by this space too. And one of the things that he laid out early on was, he's like, a lot of creatives who work in that space in the entertainment industry, it's the same in every industry, right? Is creatives oftentimes get taken advantage of, and one of the cool applications, like imagine you're a writer for Rick and Morty, for example, and you have this amazing idea, or it's Snell's in Derpatonia, and that doesn't go anywhere. It's just either it's an idea that just gets completely buried, or it's an idea that gets completely taken away from you. Is how do we create over the long term? Again, let's say the animated series one day is how do you allow the holders of the NFTs to be involved in that process in some way? And I don't know what that looks like yet. It's not a problem that we are forced to focus on right now. But to me, like decentralization stuff, like there is this, it doesn't have to be black or white, fully binary. Like there should be this amazing, beautiful area in between where you can have decentralized ownership of assets and people can own these assets, and you can use things like smart contracts to allow people to be involved in those other endeavors, like again, an animated series on Hulu, for example. So yeah, I think we could have always done it better, but I didn't even ever know this was out there.
I'm going through
um
messages in Discord.
I didn't even know this. Do you know where that came from?
Yeah,
that
Art
that
Art shared it in in July of 2022.
Hold on, let me do something. This would be a
I'm sorry to
cool
cut you off. I
thing.
was just thinking, I was like, oh, I gotta put it up and see.
No, this is let me dig in
He said he
deep into the
drew him
archives.
before. Yeah, he has the bowler derps, right?
Oh, okay, so he shared that. Yeah, one of the archetypes.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
send
yeah.
you I'll send you a screenshot if it's not already, if someone else hasn't. Oh, this might mess up my screen for a second. Um One of the other archetypes that he did, that never made it into the Legacy collection was this
Yeah, yeah,
guy.
yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if it was ever leaked. I'm trying to see, is like, man, is there anything else that's
Watch.
there's just the Coco no bird. But yeah, everyone's seen that.
Like a,
I wish there was some of the other iterations he did, like James did back in the day. There was a couple, like the buff eventually was originally called Gym Rat, and he was still buff obviously, but like he had like a syringe or something, like stick instead of a tail or whatever, he had like a huge syringe or something. And yeah, I don't know how we went from that to more of a commando type, but like yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, he is there. I see that image now. Like,
yeah.
yeah. Who is Dirtball?
Dirt
Highwind.
Bowl,
King
Highwind,
Dave
King Dave,
Millie.
Millie. It's like stuff like that. Like that's a huge part of like when you were talking about community. I know you want to wrap it up, but like that's a huge part of why I think Derps were so successful, is because like it didn't matter what you guys like. It did matter what you guys were doing, right? Like the 2021 craze was insane, and it just moved so fast. Like you said, 2 months after Derp Mint was eggs and Derplings hatching, and everything moved so fast. But even when time slowed down, um, it didn't matter what you guys were doing. We were having fun in Discord and doing stuff like this and creating memes, and then like seeing those things now come to it, like being implemented and being used and being utilized. Like I'm excited personally to be able to later in the seasons submit lore from my PFP. Like I've had it for since the day after mint, and so be able to tell that
Mhm.
story, and like other people owning, like there's a handful of people that have like their own kind of story about their dirt birds, but being able to see those like is gonna just exponentially increase people wanting to get a derp or enjoying holding a derp, because hey, look, I get to tell my story, or this quest is happening, and it couldn't. It doesn't even have to be a full story. You could just be like, hey, there's a material that's named after this person, or associated with this Discord member, or whatever it may be. Like, there's so many different avenues and different ways you guys can go that create that sense of ownership, and that will just solidify the community even more. So that's adventures
I
and
think
platform is just it's just perfect for creativity, really. Uh,
I wish everything you just said is like something that we could. Again, I know it's not for everyone. Like one project I really love is Disco Solaris. The reason why I love them is because a lot of what you just said is I think what they did really well
mhm.
too, in a completely different style, right? Like, but to be honest, that style's probably more attractive to the Cardano sort of NFT community. I think like it's cooler. It's maybe a little bit easier to relate with than these ridiculous looking silly birds. But I think they did that really well too, where they built this world, and there were these stories, and like the community were able to get involved. But like I think what you just said is, I, I love like we have so many creatives in the community, whether it's writing or memes or people like Mythical or Erica, whoever. Like there's so many people who are doing really great things. What I want is like 10 times more of that. I want, and part of that is us creating the ability for people to do that, right? Opening up that backstory lore doc and like giving people more of the, as much of it as we're comfortable with sharing. But then and again, I'm not saying it's like people should feel that they need to come in and be creative, but
Yeah,
I want to create something that creatives who sort of feel like it is their type of world, their type of brand that they would want to do something with. I would love to see more creatives like come in and do things like that. And again, if you're not a writer, you're not a writer. If you don't like memes, you're not, memes like that. That's it totally makes sense. But I think we're going in a direction where there's a lot of opportunities for people to do that. And yeah, I hope it becomes a bigger part of the future.
yeah. It's really cool. Like with Mythical doing his thing. Like I think it should be coming in this weekend or possibly Monday.
Oh, I'm jealous,
Yeah, so
dude.
like hopefully I'll have it for like adventures. That'd be really cool.
That would be sweet.
So but yeah, like just it's cool to see, and like I said, you this is providing a a door for people to come in and be creative. Like they don't have to be, but they have the opportunity to be, and that's really cool. And so yeah, man, dude, thank you so much for sitting down
Yeah,
with
man.
me.
Thank
And
you.
I think we need to do these, not on a regular basis, but we definitely do need to do another one because I feel like it's good to have your interviews that you do with different you know creators, but like
Gang, gang.
yeah, but like having something with me or with Voix or with whoever other community members that are in the community and that know derps in and out, like having those conversations in a public setting is good because not your not everyday holder is going to listen to this and be like, oh man, I didn't know that you could do that, or I didn't know about this, or what's this about? And it's in a way it's not a guidebook, where they have to sit down and
Yeah.
read, but it's just something that's interesting that they can figure out and start looking themselves and learning things. And I've enjoyed it. I know we talked about adventures a lot, and there's plenty of other stuff to talk about, but I know that's coming up here soon. So of course we're gonna touch on that. But I'm excited about
I think
adventures.
I think just to your point, like the just sit down, open conversations about. I mean, the cool thing is the. I mean, we got to give Tommy and F-35 like their credit. Like
Yes, I don't want to. Yeah, they're
for sure. I
great.
know you're
They're
not
great.
like it's crazy how deep Tommy goes on this stuff, and like I'm always super impressed. Like I've done so many shows where it's like I'm like, dude, they're saying Derptopia, and so I'm just like, okay, like it is. Again, I don't. Yeah, I do not expect everyone to like go deep, super deep on everything, but like there is a. Oftentimes, it feels like there's just like a big, like just they don't know anything about it, and that really sort of makes it not fun. And so I think more conversations. We're to a point where I keep saying this, but like adventures allows us like so much more flexibility, and being able to come and talk about just derps, like talking about the IP, the brand, the story, the world, the memes, the community. It doesn't have to be about the next feature. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
have to be about the next big thing. Of course, we always want to get into that, and I love. I mean, obviously, I think I'm always very excited, and that's pretty easy to see about talking about the future and the next features. But dude, just getting to sit down and talk about derps and everything, and we want to do way more hangouts too, like
Yeah, yeah.
just Discord hangouts and stuff. Like, ideally, we have more derps getting involved and asking questions, and
Mm-hmm.
it's not just me rambling for 2 hours, but yeah, we need to
Yeah.
do more.
Yeah,
We do a lot more, but
I think I'm gonna do a space Saturday with Smokey. Yeah, he had
nice.
messaged me. So I think it I mean, like you said, now that the Adventures is coming around, there's gonna be a lot more to talk about, a lot more to discuss, so strategies, talking about the campaigns, talking about whatever's going on, the content that's in it. I think it's smart to have a platform to that we can.
Dude, you know what I just thought about too? First of all, I can't wait for that space. But I was just thinking, because Adventures is going to be so active, right? There's going to be so much to do all the time. It allows us, maybe for the first time ever. Now, there's a lot of strategy also in like marketing something well in advance and everything, but it allows us just like literally sneak up on everyone and just like, boom, new thing. You guys didn't know it was coming. I don't even mean just in adventures. I mean, it could be completely unrelated to anything else. It could be outpost related or whatever. But like, because we're always so focused. I will say like the
Yeah,
Discord announcements are tough to do in several weeks, like multiple consecutive weeks when we're really far away from something. I don't want to always be telling you guys, yeah, I promise, guys, the next thing's coming. It's very difficult to do that sometimes. What I'm super excited about though is, well, a million things, but like I think Adventures allows us this. Again, it's not about taking our foot off the gas. It's that it allows us to say, "Hey, we have the thing. It's here. We're doing it. Look at all this stuff that you could bounce around from outposts into adventures and doing all this stuff." But all of a sudden, boom! Here's this next big thing. Here's this next thing for adventures no one was expecting. Here's this next thing for outposts. Here's this new. Here's
yeah,
the new Derp app. Relaunch like, and it allows us to do that. And anyways, point being, like, just get to be derps and
yeah.
have fun in Derpatonia.
Yeah,
So
our attention will be definitely grabbed doing adventures. So it's like,
at least for a couple days.
yeah, hopefully longer than that. But like you said, like we won't be worried about, hey man, what's next, what's next, what's next, and then you can just drop it, and then it's like, wait, it's been 3 weeks. We've since the launch, and now they're getting something else or whatever. I don't know how the timeline, um, but yeah, it's I know we could talk. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about within the Derp ecosystem. That's what's great about it. I feel like some people see it as a negative, but I think it's more projects need to be this in depth with the way they do
I agree.
things. And but yeah, man, Monday, Monday, I didn't take off of work, but I feel
Thank God.
I feel like there's something in my stomach right now that won't hit me until Monday. So I don't know.
Are you pregnant?
I don't. It might have been something I ate. I don't know. But
I know
it's
this
gonna
is
get
something
bad.
I'm
It's gonna
supposed
get
to
bad on
get.
Monday. It's gonna get bad on Monday.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It literally scares. Like, there's a few people who are like, I take it off.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh God, like that's a whole other level of pressure. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's yeah. I appreciate people's confidence in us, and we're yeah, I think we feel pretty good about it. There's a big data migration thing that Geek's a little worried about, but I think we feel pretty good about it. But if, again, as always, if there's hiccups or something flops, we won't we'll be there, we'll own it, and yeah, try to make it up to everyone. So maybe throw everyone a bunch of crafting materials and a blueprint or something if we're late. Another awesome thing about
Here, take
platform,
this.
like, yeah, you get a
Dude, I
blueprint.
remember that reminds me of like when a geek was airdropping the
Yeah,
eggs. By the
yeah.
way, if you didn't know, if there you have a derpling and it says unknown father, that is an airdropped egg. There was like 200 I want to say 230 something of them, something like that. I forget the
Nice little
number.
factoid.
Yeah. But Dave, thank you. Appreciate you so much
Yeah,
for
thanks,
taking the
man.
time out to do this.
Likewise.
And I enjoyed it. So thank you guys for tuning in, everybody that commented. If you have any more questions, drop them in Discord. If something we didn't get to, maybe I know, maybe Dave knows, whatever. Tag us on Discord. And guys, get ready for Monday. It's going to be awesome. Adventures is just around the corner. And like I said, I might be doing a space Saturday with Smokey talking about derps as well. So be on the lookout for that. But Dave, again, thank you. Appreciate you, man. Enjoy your rest of your night. All
Likewise.
right.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.
All right. Peace,
Bye.
y'all.